Welcome back to CXN Question and Answers, where, like when Putin does that thing at Christmas where he answers questions from the citizens. And,
Does he?
Or all the citizens,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
ring
yeah,
in,
yeah.
they call in like this, and they're like, but it's actually just KGB.
Hello.
It's just a KGB agent.
So there's the first little arrow fired at the west. And
Well, that's what we're doing today. So we did yesterday's one, guys. Great click-through impression rate in that. Loads of
Yeah.
people watched it. It was great, and a lot of people got out of it. And then I was justified with the Pullum thing. So someone 1925
I saw the comment.
was very happy with that.
Yeah.
That's great. So today's question is, Dara's reading it.
Today's question is, it's written, the person's username is in Korean, Gurf thinks. I don't know what the symbols are, so unfortunately we can't read your name out.
Call
The
him Alan.
comment, what's that?
Alan. Call him Alan.
Alan.
Yeah.
Alan asks, not sure if you're okay with this type of question, but from a business point of view, how profitable is being a strength and conditioning coach? About how much money can you expect to make if you have a reasonable audience online, you sell programs, reviews, etc. Are you okay disclosing your numbers? Lol. Some other online coaches like Zach, Squat University, and mainly you guys really inspired me, convinced me to go down this route. But I don't know the profits and would prefer to have a career with decent money. Lol, I'm 19. Also, what steps would you recommend for someone like me to take? Study something in particular, get experience coaching people, even if I currently am, I assume, suck at it. Currently, I'm studying kinesiology and physiatry.
Do you know what that is?
No.
Physiatry?
Wonders it's psychiatry spelt wrong.
What's it? Physiatrist.
But I started studying
Physical
before.
medicine and rehabilitation.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
But I started studying that before SLC. Great question. We're certainly happy to discuss broad strokes of numbers and money and things like that. So, traditionally, an S&C coach will work for a national governing body. They'll work for a professional sports team, a funded sports team, or else they'll work in some sort of rehabilitation environment like a hospital where people are recovering. They'll work alongside a physiotherapist. Typically, those are very, very, very competitive roles to get involved in. You'll usually have to be, if it's with a sports team, you'll usually have to have been inherently involved with that sport, or else sport of a similar level, at a similar level, either in your sporting career or coaching career previously. If you were to say get a job with Munster Rugby now, Leinster Rugby, you're looking at probably minimum a master's degree in strength and conditioning or sports performance, and you're looking at doing very, very well in that master's degree. That's certainly what it's like here in this country. Then if you're looking at getting involved in strength and conditioning coach as a rehabilitation specialist, you're certainly looking at being both highly qualified in strength and conditioning and highly qualified in some sort of rehabilitative field. So that might be physiotherapy, physical therapy, one of these kind of separate areas, which gives you a speciality to work within. If you do manage to get into one of those jobs, so say if you're working for Team GB, or if you're working with the Irish Olympic Council, you're not looking at great money, like just
You're probably looking at somewhere like around minimum wage for those, and for
Yeah.
quite a long time, like probably close to a decade. Like most of your 20s in one of those positions, for example, here could literally be €25,000, and
Yeah.
a lot, and you could be looking at something like 50 to 60 hours a week.
yeah, very, very long hours, like huge time investment, huge personal investment.
Unsociable hours as well. Oftentimes the early morning stuff, it'll be pre-game stuff, it'll be Saturday morning stuff. So not only are the hours a lot in terms of an average week, they will be at uncomfortable and unproductive times for your
Yeah,
social life.
it'll be like 5 p.m. in the evening until 9:30 p.m. in the evening, and then the morning time is probably a 2 or 3 hour block in the morning. Top end issues there. Obviously, you say you want to make good money or something along those lines. Top end issues for as a strength and conditioning coach in one of those setups, you don't suddenly become like, so you've apprentice strength and conditioning coach, then you might have head strength and conditioning coach, then you might have director of performance or something along those lines. Very few people get to the top of that triangle, and most sporting organizations don't have a top of that triangle. So if you've head of
Yeah.
performance, it's like director of rugby will handle head of performance, or you'll have somebody who kind of conglomerates a number of roles in that very top position.
You'd also would not expect to get that role before your mid-40s.
Or I'd say before your 50s.
Yeah, mid-40s would be the absolute earliest you would ever get into that kind of role. You'll just never see it. And whether that's right or wrong, whether that's correct from the people dishing out that position, you'll literally never see a man or woman without grey hair and slightly out of shape by the time they get those roles.
Yeah,
you'll just never see that.
You're going to be wearing suit pants and a shirt.
Yeah.
When you're in that role, and you probably will have worn that particular uniform for a number of years before even getting into that role.
Yeah.
Like you certainly won't be actively coaching. So, in terms of what traditional strength and conditioning coaching looks like it's certainly a vocation more than it is a
passion, for sure.
Yeah, like it's something you're deeply involved in. I kind of put it in the same lines as like gamekeeping, or people who would run large estates where they love the work they're doing. They're really involved in the work they're doing. They're out doing these tasks every day that they really enjoy. They're working with people they enjoy working with. But the money, the actual number in the bank at the end of the day won't be huge.
So some of these roles will obviously differ. So if you're in, for example, the United States, you'll have more positions available for you. And from what I've seen, the wages are slightly better compared to here. They're more livable. They'd probably be closer to the median wage and maybe lower middle class kind of wage, where you would expect to have a comfortable career sooner. And I'm not sure what the career prospects are like later in that, because you don't often see people stay in that for too long, and there might be reasons for that we're unaware of, having not seen it in particular. So if you're in the United States, you might have a slightly better chance, but I know those positions are incredibly competitive, just like they are all over the world, and every year they're getting more competitive because more people are doing S&C. So I would say, if you're not sure if you want to do S&C coaching in person, then I probably wouldn't even bother. Most people you see are honest like a bullet. That's all they want to do. That's what they know they want to do, and they have their career planned out, and that's where they want to go. So if you're not even sure, I'd almost be saying, obviously you need to do investigation yourself and go coach people and go see what it's like. But if you're not even sure, it's not the best place to be in the start, because you need to be ready for it. Is a vocation. It's like farming, big game keeping, ranching, fucking any of these things where the pay is low, the hours unsociable, the work is hard. It is rewarding for these people, and that's why they like doing it. So if it's not sure if that's for you, I definitely gonna recommend you start coaching people as soon as possible. You might not even like coaching people. You might like the idea, you might like the subjects around it, and then the money might be reasonable to you, but you might not actually like the act of coaching people. And I think that is super important. That's the most important thing, and people never ask us this. We get these kind of questions every single week from young men and women asking. They're kind of at that junction point in their lives where they're going to go off and get a career somewhere, or start the process to get a career. And they always ask, like, what book should I read? What courses should I do? What videos should I watch? What podcasts should I listen to? But no one ever asks, how many hours of coaching should I do? And that's the first thing you should start doing. That's more important than all the others, is you should go coach people. Start coaching people as soon as possible, because you need to develop your skills as a coach. You need your CV to have some coaching on it. You have to have it, and you have to do it for free. And then you need to see if you even like coaching people, because coaching people is not what you think it is. In-person coaching with gyms like that is a big deal. Coaching athletes like that has its own demands, and it's different from coaching general population. And there's a lot of skills involved in that. You need to be very charismatic. You need to be able to, especially with young men, you need to be able to entertain them. You need to be somewhat of an authoritative figure. You need to be in a position where they will listen to you and respect you, but you also need to be able to keep them entertained. You need to be in touch with them. There's a lot of different characteristics for an S&C coach in person that you need to have. Now, this is obviously talking to everyone watching this, not just our Alan man. No. We don't know we don't know any of the traits you have as a person, but these are all things you should consider.
I think as well, like to piggyback onto what Garth was saying there, the amount of time you spend coaching is so important in this aspect. Like, you really can't start soon enough. Like, it's not a thing of you should go to university and then as you're getting your university degree start doing your like work placements and then start coaching. Like, I started doing coaching internships when I was 19, and that really is, if professional strength and conditioning coaching is something you want to do, like early specialization in looking into coaching is so important. Like, just time in the gym. Garth talked about, you mightn't even like coaching. You mightn't you could love it for 3 or 4 years and then realize, okay, I'm fucked. My body's pretty fucked. I don't want to be here every morning at 5 a.m. And now you're 24 after doing it for 5 years. Like, it does just put time under the belt in a lot of these things. Would be my main thing. Like, get in there. Doesn't matter who you're coaching. Doesn't have to be high level sport. It doesn't have to be kids sport. It doesn't have to be developmental stages. You just actually need to start coaching people immediately and figure out if you like it or not.
Yeah, like, you'll definitely see a lot of people won't stay at it for a very long time, or if they do, they'll begin to set it up in their own fashion, how they want to dictate their own life, and they won't stick with the traditional format or stick with the institutional S&C coaching, because it just gets very, very difficult. Like, if you want to have friends, if you want to have a wife and kids, or a partner or husband, whatever you want, if you want to have a traditional social experience, having an S&C job like that is just not it. For the first years, it's totally fine, for first 3 to 5 years or whatever, but you'll generally see, after nearly a decade of this, even general gym work and stuff like PTs and stuff, or people working for other people, you'll almost always see people move into a different role, or if they're, for example, if they're a personal trainer or something like that, they'll end up with their own studio or particular hours that suit them a lot better, and that is very understandable.
Absolutely.
And I would like it. That's perfectly understandable. Of course, people should do that. That's not a derogatory. I don't think people thought it was, but I'm just making it clear. I would absolutely support people setting up their life in a fashion that keeps them happier, makes them happier at their job, because they'll do a better job for a variety of different reasons. But just look at the reality of the situation is a lot of people don't spend, more people leave within a decade and do different things than stay within a decade. Mm-hmm. And you definitely see people get spat out, and people who are very good at their job, and people who are very able and have all the traits and want to do it. It's still hard for them. So it definitely make sure this is something you want to do. Now on to the bit where you're asking about online stuff.
This is just before you go into this. This is actually funny, because you say Zach and Scott University, neither of whom are currently strength and conditioning coaches.
No, but I know what he means.
Yeah.
I know what that means. So you're asking about, this thing as a whole and what we're doing. I would say, think of our job and what we do just like any other job. There's a variety of different jobs that myself and Fitz couldn't go do and wouldn't have talents for and traits for. Can you think of 2 jobs that we couldn't go do?
I certainly couldn't work where I help people all the time. Like, I couldn't be a nurse.
I couldn't be a psychiatric nurse for sure. I don't think I would have the resilience for that.
No.
I couldn't
be a primary school teacher.
I definitely couldn't be a primary school teacher either, for sure.
No.
And it would make sense that we both had the same traits because we're working in the same company. And I would think of it like that. For example, you've named 2 people, so like Zach, Scott University, and if you include us, that's 4 people out of how many different people try this. And I would just say, I'm not saying you don't have the traits, because obviously we're talking to everyone watching this video, but I would just say you need to be aware if you have the particular traits. Do you have the skill set? Do you have the kind of oratory skill set? Do you have the knowledge? Do you have the experience? Do you have performance? People like that. It's important for it. People want to see if you're able to do something, and it's very understandable. Do you have a presence on camera? Are you happy to work 7 days a week for several years with minimal pay or
with no pay?
Well, we
did
a
lot of the time.
4 years, 3.5 years without pay, and be very confident in where you're going with that, because it's unlikely you'll get in a position where you will start and immediately move to a wage. And then it depends on what kind of what career do you want, what kind of money do you want. Obviously everyone wants a career with decent money. That's kind of, everyone wants that. That's obviously a given, and as you mentioned. But what's decent money to you, and are you happy earning that same amount of money for the rest of your life? Or do you want to take your company or your online presence to a different level? Do you want to learn like 7 figures a year? Is that something you want to do? Then you'll have to be willing to do certain things to get there. You'll have to have particular skill sets. You'll have to be, I've been thinking about this recently, and I just have no ability to just dip my toes in things and kind of half-ass things. And I'm saying this in almost a negative fashion, where we've recently started, I've just taken a bit of an off season for weightlifting, for example. And this is just giving you an example of kind of how your particular traits will determine what your career, and especially in something like this. So taking an off season for weightlifting, and I'm literally training like 3 evenings a week for like 45 minutes, as opposed to 10 sessions a week that would take maybe an hour and a half per session. So a lot of time filled up there. Now, instead of using my free time to kind of relax and do other stuff, what I've actually ended up doing is
doing more stuff.
But hunting for an average of 4 times a week if I can get out. I've started jiu-jitsu at Fitz. We've been roped into a jiu-jitsu competition next year. All I wanted to do was just try a little bit of jiu-jitsu to help Fitz, and all I wanted to do was 1 or 2 deer to fill my freezer. But and I've always been like this. I have a personality trait where I just have to be almost obsessive about things I start doing, and I lack the ability to be in a position where and just kind of moderate and do a little bit of it half-assed and just be like 1 or 2 weeks of jiu-jitsu and be like, okay, I just can't let it go with certain things. And Fitz is the exact same personality trait as me. And I think you'll find this a lot with people who have an online presence, is they're kind of obsessive. They're willing to do things consistently as possible. You'll see this where just keep doing things and keep doing things. And even when there's minimal growth or minimal success, you're more than happy to keep at things. Like my brain will switch between any one of the following 5 kaleidoscopes. It'll be what kind of video we're going to make, what and when we'll go hunting, when I'll do jiu-jitsu, what I'll do for weightlifting, or what I'm going to eat. They're like, my brain will just keep flicking through all these at all times and continually thinking about these things. And if you don't have these kind of personality traits, I would just be very cautious about going for this. Now, there's no reason you can't try it, and if it goes nowhere within 2 or 3 years, you can say, look, that wasn't for me, or I just wasn't able for that. And there's no problem with that. You should try things for sure. But I'm just saying, just be aware that this kind of career dictates and demands a certain personality trait. A certain kind of person can do it, just like any career. Everyone can't do every career. That is, I think, one of the problems with this kind of hustle culture. People pushing, everyone should be their own boss. Everyone can't be their own boss. Everyone can't be number one in the company. Everyone can't just start their own company.
We can't even be number one in our own company.
Can't be even number one in our own company. Just not everyone is able to do that, And I've no idea if you or any of the other viewers are able for that. It's just something you need to be aware of. It's something you need to think about. Are you okay with having 100% responsibility for your company, for your career, for the rest of your life? So a lot of times when you get a job for other people, some companies you could be literally the 10,000th employee, not even like 2 or 3. You could literally be the 10,000th employee of that company, and all you have to do is barely show up, put in 5% effort, and you'll get a wage for the next 40 years.
And a phenomenal wage in a lot of places.
Yeah, and absolutely
making really good money.
So you just need to understand what kind of person you are, what kind of personality traits you are, what risk you're willing to be able to deal with. For example, the stress of working for other people and going to a job I didn't want to do so far outweighs the minor stress of running this company at Fitz that you would not believe. We're talking 1 to 1,000 ratio of the characteristic stress. You hear people talking about, running your own business is really stressful. Honestly, it's not. For me, it isn't. That stress doesn't get to me in particular for whatever reason. I don't know why it doesn't. It doesn't get to Fitz either. Not saying we don't get, obviously you're heavily involved in it, emotionally involved in it, but the impact that stress will have on my mental well-being will be 0.4%, I would say, whereas having a job working for someone else, which I did not enjoy, could be closer to like a almost detrimental effect on my mental well-being, and as someone who's quite resilient, that's something important that you need to understand. And if you feel like you're a person who could work for other people and do it quite well, then you need to understand that. Or if you're someone you're like, there's no way I can work for other people, I think you just need to look at yourself, understand your own personality traits. Being self-objective is incredibly difficult, but it's one of the most useful things you can do, and self-awareness is so important. So in something like this, can you make money? Yes, you can definitely make good money. If you're the right kind of person, you could be more plates, more dates kind of success.
Yeah.
And there's no reason you can't be that person, but there's also no reason you are that person. There's reasons that you're not that person where you just can't do that, It's funny, more plates, more dates talked about in that Joe Rogan. He said, I didn't think I would have been this kind of person. So in one hand, I would encourage you to try it, but on the other hand, don't be upset or too upset if it's not for you. Same with any career.
Yeah, I think the last point, just something to finish on, is where people, so like just in rereading your question, you're talking about like the kind of money from YouTube, money from reviews, etc. This area where everyone sees us, where most of your interactions happen with us, YouTube, podcasts, live streams, all those, that makes practically €0 for the company. None of that money ever comes to us. Yeah. That money doesn't even cover the cost of editing videos for the YouTube videos every week. So I will say, you just have to be very cognizant that people see YouTubers, they'll see Zach, they'll see Clarence and all this, and look at that and say, oh, they make, like, obviously those lads make a lot more money off YouTube than we do, but that money is minute, and just it's kind of so insignificant that it's really not like the YouTube stuff at the moment in our kind of spheres. Obviously, if you're in more plates, more dates, even he's not making a huge proportion of his revenue off YouTube money or ad money.
Proportion of revenue.
Like, proportion of his revenue, he's
making a lot of money from it.
Yeah, but he's making a lot of money in other places.
Yeah.
So, like, you have to look at what the stuff behind the scenes is, like what the actual company does, and then this just happens to be a bit on the edge or on the side. So it is funny, people, all of your interaction happens with us via YouTube and via podcasts, and that's where almost none of the business side of things happen. This just kind of brings people to the business.
One thing I would say as well is that if you had asked us a year ago, would we have been at the numbers we're doing now? And I would have said, surely not. There would have been no way. There would have been no... and it's funny when people are like, oh, it seems like you're living the dream. And, you know, there's a thing in Irish culture where people are like, oh, it's grand. I'm genuine, like, you're dead fucking right. It's fucking great.
No, it is great.
No, it's phenomenal. Like, I really appreciate it every day. Like, there's literally not been a day where I haven't wanted to come in and work, you know? Like, I want to come into work every day. Like, there's days where you're off. And I only take like Sundays off because you should do those kind of things. Where I'm like, I could still definitely go to work today, no problem, you know? There is a huge market there. There is room for everyone, I think. So
absolutely,
we're not coming at it from that angle. You know, if we looked at this from the outside a year ago, we'd have been like, oh, there's no room for us, especially in like kind of weightlifting and stuff like that. But there's room for everyone. There genuinely is. It gets bigger every year, and the more people do this, the more other people get inspired to go training, and the more customers there is, and the more market base. So it wouldn't be discouraging you from that end. But just you just need to be really self-aware of yourself, be really self-objective about your personality traits and what you're able to handle, what kind of stress you can handle. Like I'm saying, the stress of this, we're nothing. I could go be a psych nurse and that stress could get to me by day one, you know. So it's just things you just need to be very, very aware of.
You need to be well used to living within your own head and having a lot of your own personal conversations in your own head.
True, actually,
you're going to be, if you're somebody who is quite neurotic and thrives in a neurotic environment, which myself and Garth are, a lot of the people we interact with in this sphere are very, very neurotic. Like, you can just look back at numerous people we've talked to, even on the podcast, and you'll see it. There's definitely personality traits that work quite well here, and then there's definitely personality traits where, like, you won't hit upload frequency, you won't get things done on time, you won't follow through with things, you know, and that's not positive. Like, if you're somebody who kind of doesn't manage their time well, this is true in any career, but like particularly when you're in charge of the paycheck, you have to have a certain level of
so like skill sets you'd need would be consistency, diligence, creativity, which is one you definitely need. Time
management.
But creativity is a skill that you just need to continually train as well. You know, the muse is bullshit. There is no muse. You need to constantly be doing it all the time. Time management is huge as well. Just kind of resilience to slow progress, ability, just be like, okay, there's no problem with this. I would say as well, the opportunity is there for anyone thinking about this. There is definitely opportunities there. The career path is possible now more than ever, but like all career paths, you need to consider it very well. You know, you just need to understand, are you that right person? And you might not know till you try it, or you might know right now. You might be sitting at home going, fuck no, I'll never be able to do that. So you just need to understand which it is for you. We wish you best of luck if you do try it. The opportunity is there for you. The market is there for you. If you are the right kind of person, you'll be able to do it. Alan or anyone else.
I'd love to know what Alan's real name is.
Imagine if Alan was his real name.
Because Alan always comments on live streams as well.
No, he does.
Or she.
She.
I'm not sure.
No, you're dead right, actually. Alan or
Alina.
So, if you've thought about it, anyone, let us know. It'd be interesting to see what people think. Or is there other people in the comments thinking I can do this, you know? Because you do see a lot of people on Instagram, for example. I see it a lot more than YouTube, where we'll have like S&C coaches doing a thing online on Instagram and doing a good job of it, but maybe it's not as big as you know, some other places. So it's really hard to know what those variables are. It's really hard to understand why people like certain people. So
if you're going to start this, like, this is your best friend, start videoing stuff on your phone immediately. Like, we talked to someone who's getting their business up and running at the moment, and they're talking about taking a few weeks to get their Instagram set up, you need to just Instagram immediately. Instagram everything, video everything, put all of that on YouTube. Don't worry about editing, don't worry about what software you use for editing. Get InShot, the free editing on your phone, put up your YouTube videos with that. It's just get going on it immediately if you think this is something you're going to use.
One more thing to say, just because I've been thinking.
One more last thought.
This is my third last thought. So you said S&C specifically, and S&C is actually a harder one of the others to be getting involved in. There is another option for you, and that is online PTs, and you can do a lot of good money. You can make a lot of coin.
Great money.
You can make great money with a very, very, very small demographic and very small following in online PTing, or kind of half online, half in person, if you cover your area correctly. So just for other people thinking, I know of quite a few people who do the PT thing and make good money and are very happy with their lives. The online S&C thing is a little bit, it's a different thing. It's definitely harder. You definitely have to be of a different skill set for the S&C to PT thing. So just bear that in mind as well. So I know, because a lot of people watching would probably do something along the lines of online S&PT, or kind of half online, half in person with their own studio. So there is just a distinction there, because, you know, people like what's the English dude's name again?
James Smith.
He doesn't do courses and stuff like
that.
Yeah,
and sets out business models and all that.
And a lot of people do well from those things.
And make really good lifestyle based careers around that.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. So just let you know out there that the PT thing is a bit separate to the S&C, because you did specifically say S&C, so we just want to make sure we're...
Yeah, sorry, we never even covered the PT side.
Yeah, because we don't. Bye.